And good afternoon, everyone. Sorry for being a little bit late for my normal times. Just a little bit longer day in the morning with a couple of other things going on, but want to at least get on here a little bit. Also, send a big thanks again to the folks in Brevard County, the Libertarian Party of Brevard County, for the event they put on last night, the 2021 Golden Gala. I got to be a part of. So, beautiful event. Great job that they did, and for allowing me to be a part of it, to get a chance to speak. I don't know if that was recorded by anyone, but I'll follow up and see if that will surface anywhere. I know I saw some pictures, and there should be some good pictures that'll come out of it. They had some professionals out there working on it, so hopefully. But let's see. Talking about some random things, and the first thing I kind of want to get to, for well, it's just part of the game. If you're watching this, if you're watching it live, or if you're watching it, watching the stream back later, do me a favor when you get started, go and click on that link that's in the description right there. Click on it if you're on a Windows PC. Make sure you click on it with the middle mouse button because you don't want to skip away from this. But go over there just so you got that link open. Okay, that's the donate page, and if what I'm saying and what we're talking about doing is important enough to you to think, well, we need to have this message out there and we need to represent, please make sure that you make whatever contribution you can so that we can get this thing moving and be in a better place where we can really be comfortable about going forward with the next kind of steps with the campaign and really getting out there with everybody. I'm going to do what I can, but I need the support. So, fun little clip I saw earlier today or last night. I can't remember. But it's a clip from I guess a press conference as part of that climate conference that's going on in Europe. I'm trying to think now. I need to look at where this was. I believe the climate conference is going on. I believe it's in Scotland, but regardless, it was a fun exchange. It was journalist Abby Martin asking a question to Nancy Pelosi. And I think there was another congressman over there as well. But pointing out the fact that the U.S. military pollutes, is a bigger polluter than like 140 countries combined. And the fact that they're exempt from these sort of climate provisions and rules and everything, they remain kind of outside of that, which is not surprising given that, again, the U.S. military is such a big polluter. So they sort of asked about the seriousness of this kind of stuff when, again, not only does that persist, but again, year after year, as always, with the latest NDAA, the military budget is consistently and always increasing, in spite of the fact that, again, also just comparing in terms of military budget, military strength to the rest of the world, again, the U.S. military budget is more than, I think, about the next 7 or 8 countries combined. Some absurdity of that nature. So the fact that they do this, the budget keeps on increasing, but on top of that, when there's all this, I dare I use the term virtue signaling as people go out, and we've all kind of seen a little bit of it, the absurdity of all these world leaders coming around on airplanes across the world, burning all this fuel. We saw Biden, what was it, a week ago or so, with the 85 car motorcade. It's an absurdity, and especially in a day of technology where we can do this. I can, present something like this and be live streaming to anyone with a connection here on Facebook, and to be able to do it spending, I don't know, a really tiny amount of money versus having to go around the world, burn all kinds of fuel, all this sort of thing. If you're truly and sincerely concerned about that sort of thing, and that's really is this emergency, the Earth is on the tipping point of destruction. If they really believe that, why pile onto it with these same policies? And again, that feeds into the fact that while we present these things, and more than anything, really what they end up doing is demanding that you, the regular person, have to make a sacrifice. You, the regular person, you can't have plastic straws, you can't have a certain kind of fuel, or you can't have this or that. and you need to make the sacrifices, but we're going to continue to increase the budget for the military that is going to, again, play policeman of the world. And when you play policeman of the world, that's a really big beat to have to patrol, and it burns a lot of fuel. And that is why the U.S. military, as they mentioned, is burning more than 140 countries combined. If it were a country on its own, if the U.S. military were a country all on its own, it would be within the top 50 polluters. So it's just, it sort of reveals what they're hoping, I guess, that you're not paying enough attention to. And I hope more people do pay attention to it because, again, while I'm certainly not somebody who would say that you should disregard, I think we as individuals should all try to be good stewards of the earth. You know, I wouldn't recommend anyone to be just destructive or reckless about it, but as people, and certainly as people, to be demanded to make sacrifices by government authority where they're going to, again, also divert resources that could be used more efficiently to improve people's lives, instead on the basis that, oh, we're going to do this, that, or think for the earth. It's akin to someone who's getting sick. And this is true of a lot of government policies, actually, if I can say so. This actually reflects a lot of different kind of government policies where you have the government engaged in activities that, what's the way I can say this? They're causing the trouble. There's bad government policies creating problems, and then, of course, government comes in later to try to solve the downstream problems from it. And it's akin to somebody who takes this, who's getting sick, and he's getting sick because either something he's taking, something in his regular diet is toxic, or he's allergic to that food or whatever, and he keeps getting sick, and it's just getting worse and worse. So he goes to the doctor, and, you know, sure, they could maybe give him some kind of medicine that helps with those effects. But if he continues to keep taking the poison or whatever he's allergic to or whatever it is that's getting him sick, if he keeps doing that, it's never going to get better. And the very first thing we got to do is to stop doing the things that are bad. And this is true in a myriad of areas, but certainly this is another one where you say, well, if you want to cut, if you're serious about doing any of this climate stuff and you want to cut carbon emissions, you know, you got to look at those things which are actually doing it. And just like violent killing and so many other bad things that we lament exist in the world, who's doing the most of it? Who's doing more of it than anyone else but the government? Nobody does it better, right? So so that's how it is, man. And let me go on. I got a couple questions, or I got a couple comments. One of them's a question. Oh, the military draft. This is a fun one. Hasn't really necessarily been relevant in our lives just because it hasn't been an active thing. I turned 40 this year, and obviously it's never been an experience. That's been gone in a sense for a long time, but it legally exists. Now, what I think about it, it's real simple. I hear people on both. I hear people on kind of the socialist side and in libertarian circles as well throw around the term slavery. And I hear things that sound ridiculous to me when I hear people talk about wage slavery, which makes no sense. When I hear people say things and I disagree with, and I know some people that I agree with and get along with on other things might say that taxation is slavery. I think that's ridiculous. I say ridiculous, but I'll say that it's not an accurate statement, and it's hyperbole, and I think it causes more trouble than anything else. So I'm very nitpicky about using that word for things. But I think when you talk about the military draft, that is one thing that really, really, absolutely can be rightly equated with slavery. That is, somebody is forced into service against their will. They don't have a choice. They face violent repercussions if they refuse to do it. So I think the military draft really amounts to that. And in this case, it's government stepping in to do it, although really government has always been the enabler of slavery. But military draft is really just you're being conscripted into serving in the military. Now, I think it's, and I think the record of how our military has performed has also demonstrated the fact that it's not even effective, or it's not even good. in the sense that we didn't have a better military, particularly when you look at when we had Korea and Vietnam. I think everybody has seen that having an all-volunteer military ends up with something better. Everybody works better when they're free. Everybody, when they make the choice to do it, I think it makes all the difference. What's the difference in being forced to pay for that service? I think it's what is all encompassing about it. I think slavery is more than just having your money taken from you. Slavery is having your free will to choose what you're going to do, where you're going to live, where you're going to sleep, what's going to be your occupation, who are you going to associate with. You're not free. You're being assigned to something else. Versus right now, the job I have is a job I applied to, a job I wanted to do, the best job I could find, or the best job, at least the job that I was most comfortable at, where they were willing to hire me. That's a voluntary interaction. I live where I want to live, the house I chose to buy, with my family. I'm not being sent off somewhere else. So it's the scope of it. I wouldn't. We always say, and it is the fully accurate statement, that taxation is theft, and but theft is one thing. It's the theft of your personal assets. None of us would regard. Sorry, I'm trying to adjust something over here. None of us would regard none of us would think that when a mugger comes up, pulls a gun on you, asks for your wallet, that's not enslavement, that's theft. And I think that that's something that we can draw that distinction. Again, it's not that it's necessarily morally defensible. I just think it's something different. And I think, while certainly people can make the valid point that that there's different forms of slavery and this and that, sure, but I think the imagery that's evoked, particularly when we have that discussion in the United States, it evokes imagery of, pre-Civil War, chattel slavery, and I don't think that's accurate in most cases. But when it comes to the military draft, I think that's a fairly accurate statement to say that taking someone away from wherever they want to be and what they want to be doing and forcing them to do this, which is also something that for most people they would regard as rather unpleasant, and is obviously quite dangerous. Again, you're really taking someone else's life into your hands and making the decisions for them that are going to negatively impact them in a myriad of ways, not just even assuming that you don't have the casualty levels that you've had in some past wars, in the past when we had, a conscripted military rather than a voluntary service. So, I guess this is a question, but it's a request for me to offer something. So, perfect immigration policy. Perfect immigration policy is one that treats every immigrant as an individual. I would say something akin to what we had in the past prior to the Immigration Act of 1924 and kind of the institution of quotas and all this. It would be something along those lines where each immigrant can come in. We're not having visas. We're not having decade-long waits and ridiculous people spending obscene sums of money. Basically, we're not creating unnecessary barriers. I don't think the government is a very good arbiter of what are the needs and how many of any kind of person should be in the country to be differentiating people by either national origin, occupation, education level, this and that. Ultimately, I don't think the government has ever been very good at determining the needs of the country. So, rather than having that bureaucracy in the way, you have people come in, present at a port of entry like they would have in the past, get some basic, collect some basic information, background check, maybe a health check as well. Very basic stuff that they used to do in the past, but you would do in the past. And given the technology we have today, I think you could do it much more efficiently. But even back then, they were still, people were being interviewed and everything, and held in this sort of middle status for, maybe a few hours or something. And then if everything's all clear, let them go off, let them go find a place to work and live and all that. I think in most cases people are going to have some direction already. So if people are trekking, across other countries to try to come in here, or taking that huge step, most of them aren't just wandering in to then land on the streets. Most of them have some idea or know someone, and through one mechanism or another. So I think that is what you need to do. You need to treat each one as an individual. If there's no evidence of anything really objectionable in terms of being like a wanted violent criminal, or carrying some crazy contagion, let them go. Let them live. And you have it documented, and you can deal with all those other things afterwards. Ending the drug war be a prerequisite to opening up immigration? I don't think so. I think, and not that I necessarily want to continue to pursue the drug war, but I actually think you'd have an easier time if you wanted to pursue the drug war. I think doing this would actually allow you to more easily pursue the drug war, and it would also allow you to more easily stop things like human trafficking, to the extent that that's going over the borders and everything else. Because right now you have, for hundreds of thousands of people, millions, whatever the number you want to say at any given point, are coming through over whatever span of time, you have masses of people who are coming in. And if 90% of those are people who are just coming here for jobs and stuff, well, you start ignoring those people. But buried into that, now you have the bad actors, whether it's smugglers, human traffickers, or whatever kind of violent criminal, whatever truly undesirable characters you have. Now they're able to hide in this mass of people. Instead, if you had an open immigration policy that allowed people who, at least we could verify, say, are not wanted violent criminals and aren't engaged in this, that, or the other thing, at a bare minimum, and we can see what's coming in with them, I think you could more easily enforce those kind of laws, both the good and the bad of what I've mentioned. But I think you could actually do that more effectively if you said, hey, if you're not a criminal, if you just want to come here to work, if you just want to come here to start a new life because conditions in your home country or wherever you're coming from are untenable, you can't sustain there, and you're just trying to build a better life, if you're just trying to come here to work and build a better life, here's the method. Rather than because right now the path of least resistance for a lot of those peoples is to just pay somebody to sneak them into the country. If that wasn't the path of least resistance for them, they wouldn't go that route. Now, the only people you have really trying to sneak in are the bad guys, are the ones breaking this, that, or the other related laws. And so I think it's a lot easier to enforce when you've got a tiny fraction of the people trying to come into the country that fit that profile. So, no, I don't think that should need to be a prerequisite for it. So, I hope that's a good answer for that one. But, and I think in general also, because there's other stuff that people like to put as a prerequisite for dealing with immigration or opening it up, and I don't think that that any of that really needs to be, because, again, allowing immigration to come in is not just, again, I can say from the moral perspective of, treat people as individuals because it's the right thing to do, not to categorize us into groups and to punish someone for being part of a group and saying there's too many of them or whatever. But instead, what we want to do is not just treat people, not only because it is the right thing, the moral thing to do in terms of how you treat human beings, all endowed with the same inalienable rights by their creator, but also from an economic standpoint, if these people are coming in, this is providing new labor available to everyone here to be used in businesses where there's a demand for that labor that it's not currently met. Those people will eventually get there, and they will meet a need that is currently unmet. You're going to add, and this is the way the economy works. If there's a demand for something and then it becomes met, you're going to add efficiency to the economy, and over time, that is going to be the net benefit to the nation as a whole. So I think there's a lot of positives to it, and not a lot of really good reasons to try to withhold that. It'll be a net benefit across, well, I mean, the only thing, I mean, you can pick out maybe specific cases where if you say immigrants are competing for a specific kind of job that, obviously if you have people competing for something, but again, this still assumes the fact that all these are fixed, that there's only a certain amount of ever going to be positions and things open up, and we know how this works. But part of it is having the labor force, having an increase in the labor force. I mean, this was one of the things I believe after World War II, as all the soldiers came back, you had this huge influx of labor, and the market was able to adjust quicker than FDR and not FDR, but quicker than the federal government could institute programs to try to put these people in jobs. They could find jobs already because there was a demand, there was a gap for labor. Or when you had the surplus of labor, people figured out, well, what can we do with it? Let's put it to work. People come up with ideas and opportunities and try things. And so I think the same thing happens with immigrants, where the labor is available. Again, like you see, the guys might be outside of a Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever hardware store, pick up jobs. The labor's there. Somebody will find them and get value out of the work that they're willing to do. So, yeah. Let's see. Hey. It's like the camera just cut out for a second, then got back in. It's interesting. But back on, and I don't know, we're already quite a bit into this. I don't know if I got any other questions. I'm trying to think. November 22nd with Polk County, yes. Yeah, I need to talk to you guys about how format is going to be for that event. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to joining you guys then, and a couple other. I think Volusia County, Joe had mentioned. I think they've got their annual meeting coming up in January. I need to get that date again, and definitely, as I mentioned, I was here in not here because I'm in Osceola County, but I was over in Brevard yesterday, and that was a fantastic event. I know some pictures are out, but they had a professional photographer out there, so that was a nice event. But we're going to see. Look forward to having a good time in Polk County. Coming back to Polk County, the host county of our state convention earlier this year, which you guys did a great job with. I want to say again. And let's see. I'll throw some stuff out here as I wrap up, unless I get some other good questions. One of the things I thought about doing when I got some downtime in these streams is just going through some of the items that I have on my on the issues list I have on the website, which certainly again isn't comprehensive because we can talk libertarian policy and a lot of things, but I think some that we can give a little more attention to and hopefully have a little bit more broader connection with folks. Which one of these being transparency and accountability. I think one of the lamentable things we observe in a lot of these instances where we see government wrongdoing, and in particular when government wrongdoing gets revealed by someone, typically the only person who actually pays any penalty for it happens to actually be the whistleblower. And we've seen cases like this. I think back to, even though now being outside of Afghanistan, some of the folks who were blowing the whistle on on how some of the Afghan ally warlords were using exploiting young boys. There's I forget exactly I'm not sure the pronunciation for the term that they use, the bachabazi, but it's one of these things that was really disturbing. And again, it's an example of something where the American people don't know about it, and I don't think the American people would ever be on board with supporting and saying, hey, we're going to ally with these guys and going to invest all this money to try to build these people up and help them get ahead and gain power in this country, if they understood what that was. And I think there's a lot of situations within the scope of government, one of the things that we talk about also when we talk about foreign policy, in particular talking about blowback, when we go back to how 9/11 happened, we talk about the effect of policies and actions taken by U.S. agencies, primarily the CIA, but they're actions that are taken in secret. The American people are unaware of them, and so because the American people aren't aware of them, when they get a response, there's no way to put it in context or to really understand. And that's really part of the big problem, is the fact that we have all these secretive agencies, all this stuff going on in our government that nobody knows about. And if nobody knows about, or I shouldn't say nobody knows about, we the people, the regular voters and the regular taxpayers don't know about. And if we don't know about it, how can we hold anybody accountable for it? So it's one of these things where something's got to give. You can't continue on this way because, again, we just persist down the wrong path. So one of my suggestions for it would be to begin a policy where every government document will be released unredacted to the public after a certain number of years. Now, I throw out there 5. I think that's reasonable enough time to say, because typically the excuse that's given for withholding and keeping stuff classified is security, in particular if you have folks out in the field who may be at risk, obviously, if you release something right away. But I think within a 5-year span, someone should be out of harm's way from what they're doing. Maybe you can make some kind of exceptions for it, but by and large, people are in the dark. Americans are in the dark about what the government does, and because we're in the dark about what government's doing, we can't really, again, like I said, hold them accountable or do anything about it. So this is one of these key things where I think it's absolutely essential that Americans know what their government is doing. I've even seen where, in getting into it with folks who are a little bit more left-leaning, who want government to be, the folks who want to increase taxes for certain groups of people. Those folks, when I bring up the fact that government is, well, what they're actually doing with those tax dollars, as we mentioned earlier, the increased military spending, all these other clandestine activities. We can talk about Fauci funding, experiments with beagle puppies getting their heads eaten off, really bizarre stuff, or gain-of-function research in Wuhan, whatever it is. When we start bringing up some of these other things that maybe aren't quite so, they're maybe not quite so proud of having their taxes go towards, mass incarceration, the drug war, etc., those folks would say, well, they would rather not be doing those things. And even I think amongst those folks, you'd still get broad support for the idea of, well, people should know what their tax dollars are going for. And I think even they would be very much on board to say, if you had like a form where you could say, hey, what are the budget items I want to actually approve my money going towards? I think very few people are going to be checking off the boxes for foreign aid and for some of these other things. I think what you'd find is a lot of people would be, and certainly a lot of these really amoral, secretive activities, subverting other governments and things of that nature, would not quite enjoy the same broad support, or let me put it a different way, they wouldn't be funded. Because I don't think they enjoy broad support, but people are simply in the dark about it, and they're not actually given the opportunity to give any kind of informed consent. And then they also can't hold our elected leaders, who basically give all the money for this stuff, aren't able to be held accountable either. And that's probably what's, well, I shouldn't say it's what's most problematic, it's just another piece of the puzzle. But it's the one piece of the puzzle where we have a direct action or an opportunity by saying, well, we can vote somebody out or in, but people don't necessarily have the concept of how egregious and how bad are the things that these guys are doing. As with the Afghanistan papers released back in 2019, kind of revealed that how much there was lying to the public, while the folks in the know understood that there wasn't really a directive, there wasn't really a militarily achievable mission. So they were just spinning their wheels, but they kept feeding the public the idea that, we're getting there, and there's a goal, and we're getting there, and we're succeeding in something, and to try to maintain support. And it's it's been interesting to see the curtain get pulled back on that completely with the withdrawal and the aftermath there. So I think that's something that should have broad appeal, and I think it's something that again, something to work in a little bit more and make sure that people are more aware of. Like I said, if you guys have been enjoying this and this message is what you want to hear, you think it needs a place in the larger conversation, we're going to have one of the most high-profile U.S. Senate races in the country here next year, the U.S. Senate race for Florida. So let's help me give the alternative voice here. If you can, click that link that's in the description and offer what you can. If you can't do that, if you can offer up some time, really appreciate it. I expect I'll be back on Tuesday. Hope everyone has a good rest of the week, and I'll talk to you guys again soon.